really good discussion that we could examine today would be the thought about the absolute right to believe. A lot of people believe that they have absolute rights in the legal system, but they really don't. That concept really doesn't exist. They're conditional rights. So the state in the legal, if you're a legal member, has the ability to control legal beliefs because there would be no control on their part if they didn't have that authority. So when we're looking at some case law, and also just I'm reading out of just so you understand, I'm reading out of the Upper Canada Law Society book. It was basically printed in 1963. They were special lectures on the law. It was dealing mainly with arrest, but they brought up a subject matter of freedom of worship. So I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a comprehension of how the legal system views your religious right or your right to believe, because I think there's definitely a misconception amongst legal registered Christian religions that believe they can't be touched once they say that they're doing something for God. So I will read out of this. It's called "Freedom of Worship Does Not Modify the Duty of a Citizen." They said, "It is sometimes suggested that the normal duties of a citizen are in some fashion modified by what is wrongly considered to be a paramount right, the freedom of worship. Rand J., in the Sommer case, said that freedom of religion is an original freedom which is anterior to positive law," which means superior to man's law or man's positive law. In Ontario, freedom of worship is also guaranteed by statute. Religious freedom, however, embraces a conception of freedom to believe and a freedom to act. Freedom to believe is an absolute freedom. Freedom to act is not. A person is free to hold whatever belief his conscience dictates, but when he translates his belief into action, he may be required to conform to reasonable regulations which are applicable to all persons. Now, we have to understand where they're coming from. This is a legal lecture book. This is dealing with legal membership. This is not dealing with someone who's separate from the legal system. So let's not confuse legal participants who don't like what's going on, and then they start to violate the legal rules, and then they do what we call illegal behavior, going contrary. They're not conforming. Christianity is not illegal, it's non-legal. True Christianity that Christ began, who is the founder of, is non-legal. It has nothing to do with legal, because legal is opposite to grace. So, when we look at some events that have occurred, there have been people that have preached on the streets, even in Toronto, that were preaching against the sin of homosexuality, and then they were arrested for disturbing the peace. And a question would arise, was his rights violated? Freedom of speech. Well, in essence, you have to look at what's going on there. We run a legal economic system of participants. And if somebody is basically speaking out something that is contrary to what the legal system approves or allows to happen, we have same-sex marriages now. We have there is not illegal to be a homosexual. It is not illegal for many things such as abortion. So for someone to speak out against those things is actually working contrary to what the legal system says is okay, is allowed. So when someone is actually going against a participant, that is hate speech in the legal world, because the legal world can't allow certain segments of the membership population to be centered out as being bad or corrupt or anything that would not look unified in a democratic society. Christianity is a completely different charter. it has the Bible as the charter. And yes, that charter will say things contrary to that. So a legal participant who would like to think he can be a Christian in a spiritual sense while he's participating as a legal member is sadly mistaken. And so therefore, in the legal system, the Bible could be considered a hate book when it's being read out by a legal member of society who is considered to be a Canadian citizen or an American citizen. And you'll see that eventually that will start to take place, that it will eventually be declared a hate book, as has happened in a few court cases already, where judges have actually said in the legal system, the Bible is contrary to how our acceptance in society for many behaviors and many moral directions of people. So we have to realize, do not mix up Christianity, true Christianity, what Christ preached and his kingdom, and mix it into the pagan nations of men. These legal nations have an absolutely contrary viewpoint of what is right and wrong.